Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. Welcome to another exciting episode of the EntreMusician podcast. This is the space where we concentrate on the mindset, discipline, and focus of the EntreMusician. Today's episode, absolutely no exception. In fact, I am thrilled to bring to you the newest member of our EntreMusician community in the person of Danny Jones, who is an excellent EntreMusician, has worked with just about everyone there is in the business to work with. I mean, I'm talking from Stevie Rae Vaughn to Etta James to Bobby Blue Bland to Patti LaBelle. It just goes on and on and on. In fact, one of his latest endeavors as a premier Dolby Atmos engineer is taking that very sacred music from soul singer Al Green and placing it in Dolby Atmos. It sounds phenomenal. And Danny, when he was commissioned to do that, that was when we had first met. And I have been a recipient of his kindness too, with him mixing my music in Dolby Atmos as well. But Danny comes to us today, not as an engineer, producer, mixer. He comes to us right here from the podcast lane, and he interviews the wonderful Wally Fowler. And what a great story, what great experiences are shared, and what insight we learn from Wally's career. And you're going to love Danny. He is a soul brother for real, and he's just got it. And we could not be happier that he is a full-fledged EntreMusician. So I'm going to just turn it over to them and let you enjoy.
Hi, my name is Danny Jones, and I'm an EntreMusician, and so are you. Today, got a pleasure to introduce a friend of mine from way, way back, going back to our college days, Wally Fowler. Wally is a musician. He's a band leader. He's been a whole bunch of things that we're going to learn about today. He also is the band leader of a group called Jubilation Jazz, which I find to be the whole story around it, I find to be pretty interesting. So we're going to cover that. But first of all, welcome, Wally.
Danny, good morning. It's so great, and what a blessing and honor to be on this with you. I really appreciate it. It is indeed a special thing for you to invite me. So thank you so much.
Oh, man, the honor is mine. Well, let's start off a little bit. You and I are both originally from the great state of Arkansas.
Uh-huh.
Let's just give a little introduction of yourself. Just kind of, I figured you were born. Most of us were born. And but just kind of pick up anywhere you want to.
Well, I'm Wally Fowler. We do live in Arkansas on the eastern side of the state, Marion. I'm literally 12 minutes from downtown Memphis, Tennessee, if that'll give you some good geography type things there. I'll be 76 years young in a few weeks, and I'm proud to say that by the graces of God, praying friends and family and miracle workers at Mayo Clinic, I am still on this planet. If you ask what I do, I tell people I'm retired, but I'm a starving musician and starving artist. But having a great time, Danny. I'm just blessed to be here. I truly am.
Okay, well, how did you get into music to begin with? I mean, were you in school band?
Yes. In the fifth grade, one of my very best friends, Billy Bob Olive, was getting up and going somewhere. And I said, Billy Bob, and we're still friends. He lives down in Florida. Where are you going? He said, I'm going to band practice. You ought to come join. I said, okay, here I come. So we get there, and the band director, and I'll think of his name in a second. Excuse me. Wayne Odom. Wayne Odom was my first band director, and he was a trombone player. And I walked in the band room at Deer Hughes, Arkansas. And he said, Walter B., what are you here for? I said, I want to join band. What instrument do you want to play? I said, well, what do you want me to play? How about trombone? So there you go. Fifth grade, sixth grade, and the seventh grade, my band director, Bob Meeks, a dear friend who's passed on a couple years ago, really is the reason I bought into being a musician. As a seventh grader, he asked me to join his little combo, the Bob Meeks combo, and we played around country clubs in Northeast Arkansas. My dad had to come with me and go into the clubs with me and sit at a table nearby. I read charts, even all solos. He wrote out all my solos. He was my band director from the seventh grade through graduation in 1966. I knew in the seventh grade that I wanted to be a band director, and because of him. So it was kind of funny. I saw him, probably in mid 80s or something. I was exhibiting at the Missouri Educators Conference. He had moved to Missouri and was a band director there. So I took him and his wife out to dinner. I said, Mr. Meeks, I just want to thank you because partly of where I am in my life is because of you. And I don't know whether to thank you or whoop your butt, but I appreciate what you did and instilled in me. And I still tell that story because it's the truth. Because of him, I am a musician, and I had very supportive parents.
So then after high school, you went
we went to ASU. When were you there?
Here's what I remember. You were a couple of years ahead of me.
Okay.
So I was like, this lowly freshman, and there was this little group of what I consider to be cool people, and you were in that group. I just remember I wanted to fit in. I always felt like, the little outsider out there, but I really looked up to you guys, like you and Bill Faulkner and Van Anderson. And there were some others, but that was a big time for me.
I often speak to groups of kids, and I tell them that no matter where you are in life, no matter what you do, somebody is looking up to you. Your platform, you don't know where your platform is. Some of your friends look up to you that you don't even know that they admire you. You look up to some of your friends in so many ways. Now, just think about that for a second. So when you walk out of your house in the morning and you go to school or you go to band practice or I just spoke to a bunch of volleyball girls a few days ago. Just think about that. So it's up to you. And if that is your job, that's your God-given job to act and be someone that someone might want to be like. That's a incredible responsibility that you and I have even now, Danny. I mean, no matter where we are, no matter how old we are, somebody somewhere, older, younger, or they're looking at us and they're watching us and they're making sure that what we do aligns with what we say we do. Does that all make sense?
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It is a responsibility.
Well, I told this group of girls because I said, you're athletes. And, a lot, it's a private school. Two of my grandkids go there. I said, it's a private school. And a lot of private schools, athletes walk the halls, run the building. Everybody looks up to you girls. They look at the way you treat each other. They look at the way you respond to things that happen to you. They look at the way you respond to the way you interact with your teachers and the principal. So that is your God-given responsibility to always be on your best behavior. And it was an emotional event for me to talk to them, and it was emotional for them as well. And I just talked to the coach a couple of days ago, and she said they're still talking about that. Some of those things you said to them. That is so important. So if anybody gets anything out of this conversation you and I are having, God gives us a platform. We don't know where it is, who it is with, but it's for us to perform in a godlike manner so that others can see Him through us. And if we do that, this planet will be much better off than what it is now.
Oh, I totally agree with that. Okay, so from college, I know you were a band director for a while, but I also remember you playing with the Royal American Showman. I mean, I was
okay. So yes, so right after college, I'll try to make this quick, but it was a God-given thing. I didn't realize it was God-given, but it was. So I graduated with a master, went out and taught a year simply because I thought I would be able to get out of going to Vietnam. And it did keep me out of going to Vietnam. So Don Minks, you and I was band director at Jonesboro ASU, offered me a graduate assistantship after that year at Brinkley, Arkansas. So I came back and took the graduate assistantship. Bill Faulkner and I directed the second jazz band there. I graduated with a master's in music ed from Jonesboro in January of '72. And a local music store guy, help me out with his name.
Pat Richardson?
Pat Richardson offered me a job to be his road man. And I said, well, I'm only going to probably do this for the rest of the year, and then I'm going to go and be a band director. So right at that time, a group from Jackson, Mississippi called Royal American Showroom called me and said, you want to come play trombone with us? We just lost our trombone player. I said, I would love to, but I've already committed to this guy to work for him. Let me just see how this rides out. So I worked for Pat about a week and a half, and then he sold the business to Rocky Fielder and, help me out,
Harold Burris.
Hey,
I can't believe I'm remembering all of these people.
That's awesome. And so guess what? One stayed in the store and the other one was the road manager. So they fired me in a nice way. It wasn't like that. It was so that was always part of God's plans. I didn't know at the time, but I called the guy and showman. I said, hey, you still need a trombone player? I said, yes. They said, well, come on down to Jackson this weekend. We've got a gig at some Breakers. It was either in Biloxi or it was somewhere in Biloxi or Panama City. I don't know. We're going to audition at the gig. You'll have the audition on the gig. I knew all the tunes. They were doing Chicago, BS&T, Tower of Power, not Tower of Power at that time. So I went down there and can I say that the band picture, if you put it in the dictionary, it would be next to the word hippie. So our first set on this band was, we played probably 5 different songs. We'd start it, we'd play it, everybody in the band would take a solo, we'd end it, then we'd go to the next thing. Well, that happened for a whole set. So walked into the dressing room, sat down, and the club owner came up and says, if y'all don't stay playing some dance music, you're fired. So we pulled out the dance charts or the familiar charts, the next 3 sets, and we were there for the rest of the weekend. But and Tom Leonardo, who I mentioned to you before we got started, was on that band. That was my first gig. That was probably I knew it was in the spring of '72. Stayed with them for till '78, '79. I was being pulled to get off the road. Then I came off the road, taught 3 years, 3 different schools. That sounds terrible, but each was a step up for myself and my family. And then during that last year of teaching at East Junior High School in West Memphis, I was offered a position with a fundraising company. And that really was another godsend for my family, income for my family. Danny, the way I looked at that, I was going to band room at 7:30 of the morning, going home at 5 or 5:30 every day, and I was making the same amount if I'd show up and clock in at 8:15 and leave at 3:25. And so I said, well, I need to be a better steward of my time and resources. So I did, and that's what I did until 2014. Last 2 years of my fundraising career, I was a Southeast sales manager for Yankee Candle fundraising, still being able to play a lot. I became a member of Jubilation Jazz during that time, and that first gig with them is in 2008. So really ahead to 2014, my health started going south. So I retired, became a full-time patient at Mayo Clinic, and still playing as much as I could. And then that leads us to, I've been director for Jubilation Jazz now for 8 years. Proud to say that.
Right. Now, let's talk about Jubilation Jazz. Because to me, oh, and by the way, what's that thing hanging on the wall behind you there?
The colorful thing?
That colorful thing. Yes, sir.
Well, that's the guitar player. And I know the artist very well. He's a good friend of mine. If you look down in the right-hand corner, it's signed W. Fowler. That's when I said I'm a starving artist. That's one of my pieces. I just kind of got out of the way for a few minutes out of my studio.
I've seen a lot of your stuff that you've posted, like on social media, that you had some really interesting, not just paintings, but some of the other, what would you call that artwork? I saw all of the trombones. Well, what was that thing that you did with all the trombone cases? Bonehenge.
Oh, I did Bonehenge. Yeah, that was fun. Bonehenge. Yeah, I replaced trombone. I had about however many stones are in Stonehenge. I had that many trombone cases, and I placed them just like some, they were on top of each other. It was kind of fun. I got a lot of likes and shares about that. I don't no way to dig that up now, but yeah, that was fun. And then I do some sculptures with instruments. My last big piece was that fountain I did. I don't know if you did this. It's at our home. It's a big, huge fountain made out of 3-4 different tubas. It's inside a timpani, which won't hold water, but I've very discreetly put a real pot down inside it, trimmed it up, but it would fix just not. So it holds water. And then there's 3 different pumps on that fountain that I made.
So all of your artwork still goes back to music.
Most. There's a lot of paintings I do that are not musical. By the way, there's a bigger audience for non-musical paintings there, and so that's why I paint flowers and stuff like that. But anyway, so do a lot of commission pieces. Pretty much all of my sculpturing. I make a lot of lights out of musical instruments. Pretty much almost anything you can imagine, I've made a lamp out of. So all of that's musical related, but it all comes back to me starting with musical pieces, like you said, the guitar player, and then kind of overflowing into other things as people ask, well, could you do something like this for me with all those bright colors? I like those colors. Could you do something? I said, sure. So I do flowers or such. I do I sold a big razorback. I call him Tusk with colorful background. I sold a lot of those, a lot of commission pieces. So if you're out there, Wally Fowler Art on Facebook, and I'll fix you up with something, anything you might need. Cool. Was it okay to do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. You beat me to it, but I was gonna ask you to give that information out there, because it's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, I sort of keep up with you. I mean, I don't see everything, and we don't really get to talk that often. But okay, let's working our way up to Jubilation Jazz. Give me the whole background on that.
Jubilation Jazz was started by the Arkansas Baptist Convention almost 28 years ago. So this is our 27th, 28th year to exist. I am the third director. Glenn Ennis, who I met for coffee just a few weeks ago, lives up near Springfield, Missouri. Talked to him about some different directions, got his blessing on something that I'll tell you about in just a few minutes. And then a guy named over in Texas in Fredericksburg, I think he still lives in Fredericksburg, Ray Vaughn was second. And I'll tell you how I got involved with him. In 2007, I felt called to go on a mission trip. A mission trip meaning a musical mission trip. Musicians go to somewhere, use the gospel to bring people closer to Christ. So I signed up locally with a church here that I knew went to the Ukraine bad place to go now. But this is in 2007. They went every other year. So I signed up with them to go in 2008, in the spring of 2007. So got going. It was a vocal group. I was going to sing on a vocal group with rhythm section. They had been many times done the same thing, so I felt pretty safe in doing and following their lead on many things. So about a month or two later, after I signed, I found out that I was going to have my first. I wasn't going to have. My daughter was going to have a child who would be my first grandchild. The same time that I was to go to Ukraine, or about the same. So I canceled out. So still thinking that I needed to go on a mission trip, Danny, the very next day, this isn't a coincidence. The very next day, Ray Vardaman called me and said, we need a trombone player to go with us to Jordan next year. Do you want to go? Well, gosh, yes, thank you. So I signed up to go with them, and I will never forget the morning. If you went out to my radio or my truck right then and got in the radio, and it was on K-Love. So we were flying out of Little Rock. So for some reason, I reached early morning. I reached up there and turned the radio down. I said, I just got to think about this, meditate, pray about this trip that I've been fortunate enough to ask to go on. So I can show you exactly on I-40 where I reached up and turned up the volume on K-Love. And it said, you could be going on a life-changing mission trip. What they were doing, they were giving away a trip to go with some incredible Christian artist on a mission trip. I said, well, wait a minute, God. I think you're talking to me. You're talking to me. So we get there. Jordan, I'll tell you some stuff about it. But about the third day out in the olive grove at our hotel as we're leading Bible study. First of all, we were warned that since this is a Muslim country, we could not say the word Jesus. I sang on the group. I had to change lyrics to some of the tunes we did. We could not sometimes we could get arrested. So as we were ministering to the Amman Jordan Baptist School, we did their band camp. We did a week of middle school band, a week of high school band. Kids would come in. We would work with them as sectionals. Then we'd work with them as a group. And we did that for 2 weeks. So the first day we're explaining, you can't say all this, in jeopardy. I mean, one of their kids may say something to a parent who says something to someone else, and here you go, and you're arrested because you talked about Jesus. So about the third day in the Bible study, people are asking, well, have you been able to inadvertently talk to kids, and what have you seen happening? Well, I'll tell you a kid that's been changed by the way everybody's acting and being treated here. And they say, who? I said, this guy. You guys within this band, Jubilation Gent, are changing my life. I had thought that my walk was okay, but I found out it wasn't. I would do here. We all do that still. We go over here. But they put me back on a path that was just undeniable what I was supposed to be doing. So we got back. And at that time, I was playing bass and singing on a praise and worship team in Methodist, at First Methodist in West Memphis, Arkansas. And I knew, Daddy, I was supposed to be doing more than that. I knew I was just supposed to do it. God told me in Jordan, you got to do something more than that. So I said, okay, open a door. I'm here. If you want me to do something, open a door. I'll do it for you. When we got back on a Friday, the next Monday, I'm out in the neighborhood walking, and some of our friends saw me and said, hey, come here and tell us about your trip to Jordan. So I went in and told them about what all we did and how we had the approach and everything. And at the end, I told them what was on my heart about. I really felt God was calling me to do something more than just, playing on a bass. And the girl actually started crying there at their dinner table. I said, what's going on? Why are you crying? She said, you don't know? I said, no, I don't. Said, Well, the music position at our church just opened Friday. That's the day I got back. And I have been praying for not just anybody to come lead our music. I've been praying for God to send you. You've never heard that story, have you? Have you heard that story?
I haven't, no, not from you, no.
So I said, well, then I started crying. And I said, wow. So went to the pastor. He got out the requirements, the job requirements. And the first thing said, chancel choir. Brother Wayne, I don't know anything about choir. I'm a rock and roll singer, but I promise you, if you hire me, I'll put all I have into this, all my energy, all that I know about. And they believed that. And I was there, for God's graces, for 4 years. And I knew very well at the end of the 4 years, it was time to pass the baton. We started with 6 in the choir. We ended with 28 in the choir. And that was back when again, that was 2008 to 9 to about 10 to 12, when choirs in churches were really still a thing. Of course, they aren't that much anymore. It's more contemporary. And I get that because I play on a contemporary band at First Marion now. So let's see what I get back to Jubilation Jazz. I'm sorry about all that. So in the meantime, I'm still with Jubilation Jazz, and they were playing 12 or 14 concerts a year, and it was a great time. By the way, Danny, nobody gets paid in this band. It's all volunteer. We all feel like we need to share our God-given talents of sharing the gospel with big band jazz. And that was our mission statement up until just literally a few weeks ago, because we're more than a big band, as you know, and you've heard some of our recordings. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you ask because I've been wondering too much here.
No. You've been filling in lots of blanks.
Okay.
That's good. You know, my response when I said I had not heard this story, not from you, there's no such thing as coincidence. And I've seen so many situations with, I mean, like the story that you just told, of things that have happened, you know, to me in my life. And you go, I couldn't have, if I had tried to plan, I don't know how I would have done it, you know. And sometimes opportunities, you know, just open up, even when there are opportunities that you go through something that maybe it's not all pleasurable, but it's something you needed to go through.
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. And you know what Einstein says about coincidence? He says, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Wow.
Well, so the members of Jubilation Jazz, because I have a couple of things I want to say about it, but now are these some of these guys like former band directors? Or
Yes, a lot of former band directors, a lot of military musicians. Most everyone is completely retired now. Hardly anyone works a real job. A lot of do some consulting or some clinic work or things like that. Again, no one gets paid. A lot of former worship leaders, music directors from churches in the band, like myself. And I said a while ago, so we played a church recently, and you can attest to this. And the guy in the booth that live streams it out had a question. He said, so how do we mix you? Like a big band, like a jazz orchestra, like a rock band, like a praise and worship team? How? I said, yeah. So, because our repertoire is so vast now, we fit all that genres of music, and that's why we were able to play 48 concerts last year, and we're on track to finish at 35 this year.
Have you thought, well, think how I want to say this, because I have some thoughts on this. Is this the only Jubilation Jazz band that you are aware of, as far as in, well, not only this country, we deal in a world society now, but as far as like the United States? Because I thought about this. I mean, I think the concept of what you guys are doing there, you know, is is really, really good. And I could see many of jubilation jazz groups, so to speak, in all kinds of parts of the country. I mean, I would imagine, I mean, there has to be, and I know this, and I mean, I know you well enough to know that it takes it takes somebody with a lot of drive and somebody with vision to keep an operation like this going. When you talk about that many musicians, first of all, keeping that many musicians together to begin with, I mean, I understand the complexities of that, and so I mean, my hats off to you, you know, from that. But 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 the story here is why you're doing it. You know, this group of people, and everybody has to be, because like you say, you guys aren't being paid financially, you know, for what you're doing. So they believe in what's going on. But it's got to be, you know, two loves. I mean, one a love for Christ, and the other is just, you know, the love of music. I have to believe that there could be many groups like this around the world that could sort of follow the same uh, guidelines, you know, that you guys are doing, and just spread this out, you know, even more, which would be a blessing not only, you know, to the listeners who get to, you know, attend your performances, but to the musicians. Like the comment that you made about, you feel like I don't remember exactly how you put it, but basically your walk, it changed you in a positive way. I understand that, and I could see that happening to a lot of other musicians. Have Are you familiar with any other, and they don't have to be called Jubilation Jazz, but similar type organizations?
There are many. I could not call them by name. Um, um, there used to be a great one in Dallas before I got on the band. The band went to a couple Christian music, big band music. So they are all over the country. I'm almost positive. To be honest, I don't know if anyone is as active as we are. We've been to Jordan, as I mentioned, Brazil, St. Kitts, which we're going back to next spring. We've been to Trinidad, to Mexico. We played aboard a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. We played mainly in the Mid-South, Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, and of course, Arkansas. Venues, mainly churches, not many festivals, because we are a retired gentleman. So we voted a few years ago not to play outside in the summer. So that niched a lot of 4th of July things that we used to do. So we'll look at something in October, and we do have one mid-October to be outside. And we'll look at something as we get to about March, and that'll be about it. But so those venues are basically inside churches. And when you said, why do you do it? That's it. It's part of my why. It's a big part of my why. I mentioned earlier, we're not in these specific words, but I'm living on borrowed time. I'm a cancer survivor, heart attack survivor. I'm living on borrowed time. I want to make the most out of the time that God has given me. So it is a big part of my why. I get up in the morning and have a reason beyond God and family to live, and that is Jubilation Jazz. It's a big part of my why, and it's part of everybody's why. Now, we don't get paid individually. We do charge a fee, and you can imagine how expensive it is to keep a band on the road as much as we are. We probably just about almost break even as far as our income and our outgo goes.
Well, if someone wants to find out more about your group, and to talk about, you know, booking you for something, how would they get in touch with you?
I'll give you my phone number, or jubilationjazz.com. That's our website, jubilationjazz.com, of course, with the www in front of that. And there's a way to contact me. There's some samples of pretty decent videos on there. A lot about the band. I think the schedule is almost current. I think we've got, let's see, we've got 3 Veterans Day things to do. I think we have 15 Christmas concerts to do between now and the end of the year. So as if you're listening and want to book the band, let me just tell you a little about what we do. We have 2 or 3 different worship sets. In other words, we could go in a church and completely do the whole worship set for you, the whole worship service for you. We have a patriotic show that honors God, country, and veterans. We have a Christmas show. And soon to be, we'll have a 40s live radio show where the people will come dressed vintage clothes. They'll come in and they will sit down and listen to a live produced 40s radio show. Of course, that way we go away from the Christian music and do strictly big band era with the tuxedos, with the announcer, with the great mics and everything, and whole different look. I'm looking forward to our first one in 2025 of that. I think that's going to really be able to help those gigs will able to help fund our Christian gigs. And I brought that idea to the band about a year ago, well, really 6 months ago. I said, this is what I like, the direction I like to go with the band. I've kind of tested the water. Danny, I talked to 2 people about it and they both hired us for 2025, just my vision. So let's run with this. Everybody said, let's run with it, but it's strictly to fund the Christian side of what we do. Because if we bring joy to people playing our music, no matter what genre, if we see people dancing out in front on a grass area, if we happen to play an outside thing, which we are in October, or if we see people clapping and laughing and everything, then we're bringing joy to them. And that part of that joy is a spiritual feeling of us giving them to God or giving God to them in the way of music. Music is a skeleton key. It opens the heart mentally, physically, getting you to move, spiritually, and emotionally. That key that you and I have in our hand is incredible. And it is a skeleton key, and it opens the heart in so many different ways.
Oh boy, that sounds like a great way to wrap this thing up. Yeah. Music, I mean, if it weren't for music, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation for many things. We wouldn't know each other if it weren't for that. So I really appreciate you being here.
Can I say one more thing before we close it up, unless you're working on a time frame?
No, I'm not. Feel free.
I want to go back to that, the skeleton key, because we're having a rehearsal later this week and we're going to be doing a lot of new charts. And as we open the rehearsal, some of my words I'm going to tell you right now that I'll have with the band, because in music, sometimes it's so physical and mental, especially when we're learning new charts. It's really mental and physical. The mechanics, the intonation, just learning new music. It's so physical and so mental. And then as we get to that, we get to learn that. And it becomes a little bit more ingrained in us. When we get to a live performance, it is still musical, physical, and mental, but it becomes more than that. It becomes emotional. And we need to have, when we go to a live performance, and I tell the band that when we go from a rehearsal setting to a live performance, we need to have the music so ingrained in us by that physical and mental aspect that it becomes emotional with us. And we're able to convey music in an emotional way. And when we do that, Danny, and only when we do that, it becomes spiritual. If you're able to perform music, get past the physical, get past the mental elements of it, and get into the emotional element of it, it becomes spiritual. And that is what music is all about, moving people emotionally, moving them spiritually.
I absolutely. If we don't make an emotional connection with the listener from a musician standpoint, to me, we kind of missed the point.
Absolutely.
Of it. So that's great. Again, this entrepreneurial musician, we find ways to do things, and you're finding ways to do things. I mean, obviously, you're a man on a mission, and you're still on the mission. And I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you being here today, and I look forward to. I want to hear more of this stuff, that you're doing later on. Recordings, and I still think you need to do a live video and audio recording. But I've expressed that to you before, and I know there's a lot that goes into being able to pull that off. But that would be, I just think it would touch so many more people who are not able, to come to your performances. That's the great thing about this whole format,
Absolutely.
of the internet these days. We can reach. I mean, right now you and I are two different parts of the country, having this conversation. But again, I want to thank Wally Fowler and your two. What was your art address? How someone can find you for artwork?
Wally Fowler Art on Facebook.
Oh, on Facebook.
WALLY Fowler FOWLER Art.
Okay, and
it's out there.
And then JUBILATIONjazz.com.
.com.
Hey, old friend, listen, I appreciate you a bunch. Any other passing words before we pass along here?
I just so appreciate you to allow me to have this platform. Hopefully it'll touch people in some ways that I'm not worried about selling art. I am worried about getting the gospel out there. By the way, through our leadership committee and graces of former directors, our mission statement now reads, glorifying God with our music.
Great. Hey, say hello to all my friends in Arkansas.
We'll do it. I hope to see you in Memphis in a few months. Oh, a few weeks.
A few weeks, yes.
Yep.
October 16 through 24, I think. That may be too long. I don't know. 3 or 4 days, starting on the 16th.
Let's do something. Let's go to the rendezvous. Have a barbecue.
Oh, twist my arm.
Okay. Done.
Okay, great. Listen, again, it's Wally Fowler. I'm Danny Jones with EntreMusician, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Danny. God bless y'all. Thank you.
God bless you. Bye.
I absolutely knew that you were going to enjoy this episode of the EntreMusician podcast with our hearts warm from our newest team member, Danny Jones, knocking it out of the park, and the great conversation that he shared with Wally Fowler. I tell you what, you can join us. You don't have to hesitate. If you are an artist, musician, singer, producer, rapper, spoken word artist, and particularly if you are over the age of 50 years old, why don't you schedule some time with us here at the EntreMusician? We would love for you to raise your voice as well and become one of the dynamic members of this thriving community. We're just growing and sharing with each other. So we will see you next time. We have many more podcast episodes for you like this. And you tell everybody you get down with the EntreMusician. Tell 4 people you don't either. By the way, my name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. We will see you next time.